Hello SLAPAFISH community, welcome back to another World of Tanks concept video. So in this video, I'm going to be listing every Era 1 tank and rating them from worst to best. So basically number 9 will be the worst, and number 1 will be the best. And this is going to be going off win ratio to make it fair and even. So also, there's 9 Era 1 premium tanks in Cold War. Technically 8 because one of them's a reskin, and I'm going to be having 9 on this list because White Stars usually combines the reskins together into one tank, but for some reason it did not for this tank, so it's still going to be on the list. So yeah, let's just get on started. Also, if you like this video, consider subscribing because it's free and it helps out the channel a ton. So in the number 9 spot is the T100, the Era 1 independent tank destroyer. So this tank has 45.44% win ratio. It is the lowest win ratio by far. It doesn't include close to the number 8 spot. Also, it has only been in 266,183 battles. Well, I say only, but that's a lot for like Era 1 premium tanks because that's like the 5th most played. So yeah. It kind of makes sense why this tank has the lowest win ratio of all the other tanks and why it's so low. It's because this tank is actually quite hard to play, especially because it is a tall tank destroyer. It doesn't really have concealment, but it also has terrible gun depression at 3.2 degrees. So you're tall and you can't really point your gun down. So also you have 9 degrees of gun elevation, nor can you point your gun up. So yeah, you can't really point your gun up and down. You can't really use ridge lines or anything like that. You have to stay in the very back of the line, and hopefully you can get a shot off, because you have to work with that terrible gun depression and terrible gun elevation. But if you actually do manage to do, the gun's actually really good with almost 3,000 DPM for an Era 1 tank, which is extremely good. So let's move on to the number 8 spot. Now, like I said, the T100 had a 45.44% win ratio, and this tank has a 48.49% win ratio. It jumped up by 3%, and that would be the M116. And this tank has been in 2,001,202 battles. And this was a season reward tank, I was told. And yeah, I'm actually quite surprised why I'm very surprised the M116 is in the number 8 spot. It is a very, very good tank destroyer. I believe the reason it is that most people play it as a light tank. It's supposed to be played as a tank destroyer and as its primary role. That's why it's classified as a tank destroyer. It has a tank destroyer gun. The reason I wouldn't use it as a light tank and why it fails as a light tank, it can be used as a light tank, but it is not very highly recommended because it's slower. It's a lot slower than the other Era 1 light tanks. You got the 107, you got the 100, the 101 that's going around like 80, 90, 100 kilometers. You got the Bulldog going about 80 or 90, the Chaffee going 80. You got all these Era 1 light tanks going 80, 90, 100 kilometers. Then you got this M116 that's going 61 kilometers. Yes, it's a Chaffee, but it's a lot slower than the Chaffee. Also, your gun depression starts getting bad when you look behind your tank. Your turret traverse is pretty slow. It's at 36 degrees a second. Well, it's fast for a tank destroyer, but slow for a light tank. When you're comparing the gun stats to like light tanks and the mobility, you understand why this tank suffers when it gets played as a light tank. Not saying it can't be played as a light tank, it's just not highly recommended as a light tank. And that's probably why it's being so lowly ranked, the number 7 spot. So this tank is one of the reskins. It's the FB201, the Era 1 British heavy tank, the Western Alliance heavy tank. This tank has been in 44,405 battles, and it has a win ratio of a 48.91%. When this tank first came out, and along with its reskin, this tank it's classified as a heavy tank, but when it first came out, it didn't really play like a heavy tank. And it kind of suffered because of the RNG when this tank came out. The RNG was really bad for like tanks that had armor because penetration was ranked a lot higher. You would just high roll on your penetration a lot, and once they fixed that, the armor actually works a lot better. And yeah, overall, it's a really good tank. I just had a match. You're actually seeing this match right here, right now, doing like 9,000 damage in this game, which I made 1.5 million silver in this game, as you're seeing, which is insane. So let's just move on to the number 6 spot, which is the M636. It has been in 56,095 battles with a win ratio of 49.16%. This is the second least played tank. The FE201 was the least played tank of Era 1 premiums. Now, this tank was a season reward tank, which is actually kind of surprising because it was a season... No, it was not a season reward tank. I don't think it was. Maybe it was. I don't remember. There's been so many season reward tanks that I just can't remember. Also, this tank has a 65% silver boost, which is insanely high. This tank... I don't actually know why it's ranked so low. I guess because it's... There's only 9 premium tanks, so it's got to rank somewhere. Overall, it has a really high DPM of 2,800 doing... how much damage does this do? 280 per shot, which is the same as the M116, but in the medium tank form, it has a little bit of armor. It has 7 degrees of gun compression, but its mobility is quite lacking at 45 forward, so it kind of makes it as a heavy tank. Some heavy tanks are actually faster than this tank. So yeah, but it doesn't have the armor as a heavy tank. So let's move on to the 5th spot, which is the T55A. The T55A has been in 188,697 battles. It has a win ratio of 49.46%. This tank was also one of the 2 first premium tanks of Cold War. It was the T55A and the T95E3. So this tank it's a T55. T54, T55, it's got a great gun, a great 100 millimeter gun. Has okay DPM at 2,525. It's fast. It's 58 forward. It's doing 300 damage per shot. It has decent armor. Its gun conversion where it lacks at 5 degrees. And it has a couple of skins for this tank. So yeah. Overall, 55A is a really nice tank. Now let's move on to the Centennial T95, which ranks in the number 4th spot of this list. So the reskin, so this is the Centennial, and it has been in 142,520 battles with a 49.73% win ratio. The reason this tank has been in way more battles than the non-skinned version of this tank is because this version of the tank came out first. Way first. Same reasons as the other one, and more people, more than likely, well, definitely more people have this tank, so they can, yeah, I can't really say much about the Centennial, because I've said it all with the FE4201. When it first came out, it didn't feel like a heavy tank as it's classified because of the RNG. Once the RNG went back to normal, and it feels like a heavy tank again. As I said, again, this is the 8,000, 9,000 damage game I was in. That I was recently just in, and yeah. Let's just move on to the number 3 spot, which is the WZ-111, which is a Era 1 Eastern Alliance heavy tank. This actually has the red skin, and this is the 3rd most played Era 1 premium tank. At 686,383 battles played, and is the first of this tanks to cross the 50% win ratio at 51.68%. This also was a season reward tank. It has pretty good armor. Actually, it has really good armor. Even when the RNG changes were like high on penetration, where you would high roll on penetration, the armor still held up back then. And when it the RNG changes got fixed, armor actually became armor again, it holds up even better now. It's got a 122 millimeter gun that does 390 damage per shot, which has a pretty low DPM. Yeah, it's quite low, at 2,126 DPM. Penetration 248 on standard, 320 on its premium. It is fast. Remember how I said the M116? No, the medium tank, the M636, goes 45. This tank is a heavy tank. Well, that tank was a medium tank, but goes faster than that M636 at 50 kilometers. So yeah, you kind of see why the M636 is ranked a lot lower than this tank. This is a heavy tank that goes faster than the medium tank, that has better armor, a bigger gun. So yeah, you understand. And it also has 5 degrees of gun depression. So let's just move on to the number 2 spot. The number 2 spot may surprise a lot of people on this list. It is very close to being tied with the number 1 spot in win ratio. This is the Era 1 Western Alliance medium tank, the T95E2. And it has been in 519,172 battles with a win ratio of 52.15%. Now, a lot of people hated this tank. This tank got a lot of bad reputation when it first came out. I enjoyed this tank when it first came out. I bought it. So, yeah. It is the only tank in Cold War. No. It's the only tank in Era 1 that has Siege Mode. Also, it is the very first tank in Cold War that got Siege Mode. So, yeah. It has 9 degrees of gun depression when you are in Siege Mode. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, 14. Okay, it has... Its normal gun depression outside Siege Mode is 9 degrees. When it goes into Siege Mode, it has 14 degrees. It also has a DPM of 2,362. Its mobility is 56.3 forward and 20 reverse. And yeah, it has pretty decent armor. Its armor can hold up. It has 240 damage per shot. It's pretty great medium tank. Its armor can hold up. It's quite fast. It has it has the best gun depression in Cold War. And yeah, it can hold up. So the number 1 spot should surprise absolutely nobody, which is the T95E3. This is definitely the most played Cold War Era 1 premium tank at 4,114,120 with a win ratio of 52.55%. This tank, like I said, 4 million battles. The M116, which is the second place most played Era 1 Cold War tank, has 2 million battles played in. So this tank has been played double the amount of times the second place has been played in. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. It's because this tank was a season reward tank. All new players get this tank. And also, speaking of all new players get this tank, the win ratio is still the highest of Era 1 Cold War tanks. And brand new people that have never played this tank, have never played this game, has this tank for free. And its win ratio is a 52.55%. That said something. So yeah, it does 390 damage per shot. This is classified as a medium tank, which it should be classified as a heavy tank because the armor is just really good. Even when the penetration was high rolling, the armor just held up. Whole armor is pretty good. Turret armor is where it's at. It had 9 degrees of gun depression. No, 10 degrees of gun depression. Does 390 damage per shot. Its DPM is 2,363. It is pretty mobile at 56.3 forward and 21 reverse. And yeah, this is a pretty dang good medium tank. If you haven't got the T95E3 yet, pick it up because it's definitely the best. It is one of the best. Anyway, that's it for this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, myself, fish because we're always not. And peace out. See ya.